I want you to picture a sprawling English country estate, just bathed in that pale early morning light.
Right, dawned at a grand manner.
Exactly. And inside, there's this completely harmless practical joke that is about to go horribly wrong.
Horribly, yeah.
7 alarm clocks are ticking relentlessly on a mantelpiece, keeping time over a dead body.
And meanwhile, just a few miles away,
On a really lonely, windswept road,
right, a bleeding man collapses right in front of a speeding car. And with his absolute final breath, he whispers this incredibly cryptic warning.
it's just such a hook. Welcome to today's deep dive into the source material. We are stepping back into the golden age of detective fiction to unpack Agatha Christie's incredibly clever thriller, The Seven Dials Mystery.
It is a brilliant piece of work.
It really is. Our mission today is to take you on a vivid, just suspense-filled journey through this narrative. I'll be painting the scenes and walking you through the intricate, fast-paced events of the story, unpacking the mystery clue by clue.
And as we navigate this labyrinth, I'm going to be stepping in to look beneath the floorboards of the narrative, so to speak.
The hidden mechanics.
Exactly. We're going to examine the hidden motives of these fascinating characters, the actual mechanics of a truly brilliant plot, and how Agatha Christie masterfully weaponizes our own assumptions against us.
Which she does so well.
She's the master of it. We'll explore the historical context of the 1920s, the tropes of the espionage genre being manipulated, and why seemingly minor details, like the specific trajectory of a thrown pistol.
Oh, that is so crucial later on.
It really is. Or a burnt glove in a fireplace. Why those are the absolute load-bearing pillars of this entire mystery.
Let's just jump straight into the action and set the stage. Our story begins at a historic, magnificent English country mansion called Chimneys.
Chimneys.
Yeah, and this isn't just a house, it's this colossal, intimidating monument to old aristocracy.
But the old aristocracy isn't currently footing the bills, right?
Right. Chimneys has been rented out for a term by a self-made iron and steel magnate named Sir Oswald Coote, along with his wife, Lady Coote.
The Coots.
Yeah, and Sir Oswald is a man who practically hums with aggressive industrial energy. He prides himself on his meteoric rise from a humble bicycle shop to just immense wealth.
He's the ultimate self-made man of that era.
Totally. He is all about early rising, frugal living, methodical habits, and crushing efficiency. He basically applies the rules of the factory floor to his vacation home.
Which sounds exhausting.
It does, but Lady Coote is a completely different story. She is entirely out of her depth in this massive, echoing estate.
You know, the dynamic between the Coots and the estate itself is a really brilliant reflection of post-World War I British society.
How so?
Well, the old money is struggling with taxes and death duties, which is forcing them to rent out their ancestral homes to the newly rich industrialists.
Ah, right. The changing of the guard.
Exactly. And Lady Coote is a wonderful embodiment of this awkward transition. Physically, the source material describes her as looking like a tragic heroine from a Victorian melodrama.
With the huge eyes.
Yeah, she has these large, mournful eyes and a deep, resonant voice. But her only real tragedy is her husband's runaway financial success.
She just wants a normal life.
She is, at her core, an inherently simple, sociable woman who would be perfectly happy just, chatting over a garden fence. Instead, she's been marooned on this island of extreme wealth,
And she's terrified of the staff.
utterly intimidated by her own massive staff. There is this incredibly telling detail where she tries to ask her autocratic Scottish head gardener MacDonald for some grapes.
Oh, the grape scene.
Right, and MacDonald essentially shames her for daring to cross the threshold of her own hothouse.
In her own rented house.
Exactly. Because of her husband's strictness and her own lack of authority, she lives in a state of perpetual anxiety. She's absolutely obsessed with schedules and punctuality.
Which brings us perfectly to the inciting incident, the spark that lights the powder keg. The Coots are hosting a house party.
But not for business associates.
Right, they haven't invited other industrialists. They've invited a flock of young, carefree, aristocratic, bright young things.
The roaring 20s crowd.
Exactly. You have Jimmy Thesiger, a cheerful, cherubic, just exceptionally amiable young man who drifts through life with a permanent smile and seemingly no responsibilities.
Everyone likes Jimmy.
Everyone. You have his friends Bill Eversley and Ronnie Devereaux, both of whom occupy these purely ornamental, highly vague positions at the Foreign Office.
Classic aristocratic sinecures.
Yeah. And then you have Gerald Wade, universally known as Jerry. Now, Jerry has a particular habit that is driving the highly punctual Lady Coot to the absolute brink of a nervous breakdown.
He likes to sleep.
He is notoriously, chronically, relentlessly late for breakfast. We are not talking about sleeping in until 9:00 a.m. either. Jerry is casually rolling out of bed and strolling downstairs at 11:30 in the morning.
You know, this lateness isn't just an annoyance for Lady Coot. It is a profound clash of cultures.
How do you mean?
For Sir Oswald Coot, time is money, efficiency is God, and sleeping until noon is a moral failing.
A sin against industry.
Exactly. But for Jerry Wade, representing the aristocratic class, time is completely irrelevant. The rigid rules of the industrialist host are something to be cheerfully ignored.
And Lady Coot is just caught in the middle.
Yeah, the text describes her wandering the grand halls of chimneys like a hen that wants to lay an egg and can't.
That's such a great visual.
It is. She's completely stressed out by Jerry's inability to conform to the household schedule. And the tension over this trivial matter becomes so absurdly inflated that the younger guests decide they actually must intervene.
They have to do something.
Right, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need to relieve the agonizing awkwardness at the breakfast table every day.
So the group convenes a sort of war council to figure out how to cure Jerry of this late sleeping.
A very serious meeting.
Very serious. They bring in Rupert Bateman, who is Sir Oswald's deadly serious, spectacled private secretary.
Everyone calls him Pongo.
Pongo, yes, Pongo is the epitome of efficiency. He's a man who probably schedules his own sneezes.
Very methodical.
Extremely. When consulted, Pongo logically suggests using an alarm clock.
Makes sense.
The young aristocrats love the idea, but in typical roaring 20s fashion, they decide that if one clock is a good joke, a massive barrage of clocks is a hilarious one.
Naturally. Overkill is the point.
So they pile into a fleet of cars and descend upon the sleepy local market town of Market Basing. They invade the quiet, dusty shop of a local horologist named Mr. Murgatroyd.
Or Mr. Murgatroyd.
Right. He tries to sell them dignified, reliable timepieces, but Jimmy Thesiger, showing a surprising knack for mechanics, starts fiddling with the cheap alarm clocks. He sets them all off simultaneously in the shop until the noise is just deafening.
Absolute chaos.
They end up purchasing 8 exceptionally loud, obnoxious clocks priced at 10 shillings and 6 pence each.
Let's pause on that price tag for a second. 10 shillings and 6 pence, which was often written as 10 and 6.
Is that a lot?
Well, in the 1920s, this wasn't a fortune, but it certainly wasn't pocket change either. It equates to half a guinea.
Okay.
So buying 8 of them is a deliberate, extravagant commitment to a fleeting, practical joke. It really highlights the disposable income and the sheer boredom of these young house guests.
They have nothing better to do with their money.
Exactly. But from a narrative perspective, the introduction of the clocks is where Agatha Christie really begins to turn the dial from light social comedy toward something far more sinister.
It gets dark fast.
It does. The ticking clock is one of the oldest motifs in suspense fiction. It represents the unstoppable march of time, a countdown to disaster, and the cold, mechanical indifference of fate.
Wow.
And the logistics of this prank require the group to violate the sanctity of a sleeping man's room in the dead of night, laying the groundwork for a locked room mystery.
The atmosphere in the house that evening is thick with suppressed giggles. After dinner, the party settles down for a game of bridge.
We get another great character moment here.
We do. It's worth noting how the text paints Lady Coot during this game. She is a terrible bridge player, utterly lacking in strategy.
Completely oblivious.
At one point, she literally leans over the table, blatantly looks into Jerry Wade's hand to see his cards, and then successfully bids, claiming she is just, quote, lucky at cards today.
It's so funny.
It's a great humanizing moment that contrasts so sharply with what's coming. Finally, the adults retire. The young conspirators gather in the darkened, drafty hallways of chimneys.
And they're waiting for Jerry to fall asleep.
Right. They wait outside his door until the light clicks off, and they can hear the deep, rhythmic breathing of a man fast asleep.
So who goes in?
They elect Pongo Bateman for the mission because he walks silently like a cat. Pongo slips into the pitch-black room and carefully hides the 8 ticking clocks.
Just spreading them out.
He parks them under the bed, on the wardrobe, behind chairs, setting them to go off in a continuous, staggered sequence starting precisely at 6:30 a.m.
A gauntlet of noise.
They all sneak back to their rooms, dreaming of the glorious uproar that will echo through the house at dawn.
But when dawn arrives, the anticipated comedy just evaporates into a profoundly chilling silence.
It's so eerie.
The clocks function perfectly.
Yeah.
From the room next door, Ronnie Devereaux listens as the alarms trigger one by one. They're ringing with a harsh metallic clatter that's loud enough to wake the dead.
Quite literally.
Yes. He lies in bed, waiting for the inevitable string of muffled profanities, the sound of a shoe being thrown against the wall, the heavy thud of Jerry getting out of bed.
But there's nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Just the relentless mechanical ringing echoing in an otherwise silent room. At first, the group assumes Jerry is engaging in a battle of wills.
Like he's just stubbornly pretending to sleep through the din to ruin their joke.
Right. They actually admire his tenacity at first. But as the morning stretches on and the grandfather clock in the hall chimes noon, the silence stops being funny and starts becoming heavy with dread.
The dreadful truth is finally delivered by Treadwell, the immensely dignified butler of Chimneys.
You've got to love a stoic British butler.
He approaches Jimmy and Ronnie with a demeanor of absolute detached professional calm, which honestly makes his news all the more horrifying.
What did he say?
He informs them that a footman was finally sent to check on Mr. Wade, only to find that the poor young gentleman had passed away in his sleep.
Just a devastating shock.
The local physician, Dr. Cartwright, is summoned immediately. He examines the body and the scene, confirming the cause of death is an overdose of chloral.
A sleeping drug.
Yeah. A small bottle of the medicine and a glass were found resting on the nightstand right beside Jerry's bed. On the surface, it looks like a tragic, straightforward accident.
A young man took too much medicine to help him sleep, and his heart simply stopped.
But when Jimmy Thesiger walks into that sunlit bedroom to pay his final respects to his friend, his eyes are drawn to the mantelpiece.
The clocks.
Exactly. Someone, presumably the footman who found the body, had gathered up the alarm clocks scattered around the room and neatly, methodically lined them up in a row on the wooden mantel.
The very striking image.
But as Jimmy counts them, a cold spike of adrenaline hits him. There are not 8 clocks.
There are only 7.
7. One of them is completely missing.
The visual of those 7 ticking clocks lined up near a corpse is just deeply unsettling.
It feels intentional.
It transforms a scattered prank into a deliberate, ritualistic display. The missing 8th clock, which the source material notes is later found casually tossed out of the bedroom window onto the sprawling lawn below, is the hook.
It pulls you right in.
It drags you, the listener, out of a tragedy and into a murder investigation.
Yeah.
But equally important to this physical clue is the psychological reaction of Ronnie Devereaux.
Ronnie's reaction is so strange.
It is. Ronnie isn't just a fellow guest. He is Jerry Wade's absolute best friend. When Dr. Cartwright asks the room if Jerry was in the habit of taking sleeping pills, Ronnie's reaction is visceral.
He denies it completely.
Vehemently. He insists that Jerry never touched the stuff, that Jerry boasted about having the constitution of an ox and slept perfectly fine on his own.
So he knows it wasn't an accident.
Right. Yet, moments later, when Jimmy directly asks the doctor if there is any medical suspicion of foul play, the doctor hesitates. He looks to Ronnie, offering him a silent invitation to speak up, to demand an inquest.
And Ronnie,
whose face is drawn and pale, clearly suspects his friend was murdered. But he looks down, shakes his head, and completely denies any cause for suspicion. He verbally shuts the door on the police.
I found that detail absolutely staggering when I read it. Your best friend is lying dead, you know he didn't take those pills, you know a clock is missing, and yet you look a doctor in the eye and say, no, everything is fine.
It's baffling behavior.
Jimmy Thesiger is equally baffled by this. The two of them have to undertake the grim task of driving out to the country to break the news to Jerry's half-sister, Lorraine Wade.
Poor Lorraine.
Lorraine is described as a small, fair, deeply devoted young woman who lives a quiet life away from the London social scene.
Very meek.
Very. When Jimmy and Ronnie delivered the news that Jerry died of an accidental sleeping draft overdose, her incredulity is absolute and immediate. She refuses to believe it.
She knows her brother.
But even in the face of the grieving sister, Ronnie stands his ground and won't voice his suspicions. Later, out of earshot, he finally admits it to Jimmy that he is bound by a promise he made to Jerry.
A secret promise.
A promise that prevents him from going to the authorities. Ronnie makes a fateful decision right then and there. He is going to play a lone hand.
He's going rogue.
He is going to investigate his best friend's death completely by himself, outside the bounds of the law.
This is a critical juncture in the architecture of the mystery. The first act has concluded. The isolated Golden Age country house setting is established. The locked room victim is on the board. The physical clues are baffling, and the atmosphere of suspicion is incredibly thick.
All the pieces are in play.
Exactly. And Christie has expertly isolated her characters from the official police force. By having Ronnie refuse to speak, she forces the narrative away from a standard Scotland Yard procedural and plunged it into the realm of amateur espionage.
Which is so much more fun.
It is. And just as the pacing threatens to become bogged down in grief and secret-keeping, she violently shifts the perspective and introduces the true catalyst.
The absolute engine of this story.
Entered Lady Eileen Brent.
But you can forget the formal title because absolutely everyone calls her Bundle.
Bundle Brent?
Bundle is a force of nature. She is the daughter of Lord Caterham, the aristocrat who actually owns Chimneys and is currently renting it out to the Coots.
Right, the landlord's daughter.
Yeah. She is young, energetic, daring, totally fearless, and possesses a sharp, unsentimental intelligence. She also happens to drive a massive Hispano-Suiza automobile at speeds that terrify everyone on the road.
To understand Bundle's impact on the story, we really must look at her foil, which is her own father.
Lord Caterham.
Lord Caterham is the ultimate embodiment of aristocratic inertia. The man has no interest in managing his massive estate, no interest in politics, and certainly no interest in mysteries.
He just wants to be left alone.
His deepest desires in life are to be left alone in his library, to read rare antiquarian book catalogs, to occasionally practice his golf swing, and to avoid any conversation that might require emotional exertion.
He sounds relatable, honestly.
He's very funny. But Bundle is the antithesis of this decay. She represents the new generation of women post-World War I, independent, physically active, restless, and completely unwilling to let sleeping dogs lie.
And she loves that car.
The Hispano-Suiza she drives is a perfect symbol for her character. It is a massive, roaring, incredibly powerful machine that demands attention and respect.
And it's in that roaring machine that Bendel literally crashes into the main plot. The Coots have ended their lease following the tragedy, and Lord Caterham and Bundle have moved back into Chimneys.
Back home.
Bundle is tearing down a quiet, winding country road in her Hispano. The weather is fine, the road seems completely clear, and she has the accelerator pressed down.
Just flying.
Suddenly, without warning, a man bursts through the thick green hedges lining the road.
Right out of nowhere.
He staggers, reels wildly, and collapses directly into the path of her speeding car. Bundle wrenches the heavy steering wheel with all her might, tires screaming, gravel flying, nearly rolling the massive vehicle into a deep ditch.
It's incredibly cinematic.
She slams on the brakes and leaps out, her heart in her throat, utterly convinced she has just run a man down. She finds the man lying perfectly still on the tarmac.
Is he breathing?
Barely. With the help of a passing motorist, she manages to load his limp body into the back seat and speeds to the nearest village to find a physician, a Dr. Cassell.
But the doctor finds something else.
Right. When Dr. Cassell examines the unconscious man, he delivers a shocking revelation. Bundle didn't hit him with her car. The man hasn't suffered blunt force trauma. He is bleeding to death internally because he has been shot through the chest with a rifle.
This sequence is a masterclass in escalating tension and genre blending. What begins as a breezy scene of a wealthy young woman driving through the countryside instantly violently pivots into a brutal, visceral murder scene.
Whiplash.
Absolute whiplash. The transition from the polite, poisoned teacup atmosphere of the chimney's bedroom to the stark, bleeding reality on the country asphalt is jarring.
Very gritty for Christie.
And she uses this moment of extreme physical trauma to deliver the message that sets the rest of the book in motion.
Bundle is standing over the examination table as the doctor tries in vain to stem the bleeding. The man's eyes flutter open. He is drowning in his own blood, struggling for every breath.
That's a grim scene.
He looks at Bundle, grabs her arm with surprising strength, and manages to gasp out a final cryptic message. He mutters, 7 dials. Tell Jimmy Thesiger. And then he dies.
Those dying words.
Bundle is deeply shaken. She searches the dead man's pockets for identification and pulls out a silver card case. She flips it open and reads the name. It is Ronnie Devereaux.
Ronnie.
The same Ronnie who refused to speak to the police, the man who decided to investigate Jerry Wade's death alone.
And it got him killed.
His lone wolf investigation has cost him his life. But Bundle, despite her shock, is exceptionally sharp. The phrase 7 dials triggers a memory.
She's seen it before.
Just days prior, while moving back into Chimneys, she had been clearing out the bedroom Jerry Wade died in. Stuffed in the back of a desk drawer, she had found a crumpled, unfinished letter that Jerry had been writing on the very night he died.
Let's examine the contents of that letter, because it serves as the Rosetta Stone for the amateur sleuths.
It's the key to everything.
In the letter, Jerry is writing to his sister, Lorraine. He starts by mentioning that he is feeling incredibly fit and healthy.
Which proves he wasn't sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a seemingly throwaway line that actually serves as hard, documented proof that he had no need for and no intention of taking a heavy sleeping draught.
Right.
But the core of the letter is a warning. He writes about a secret society, an organization called Seven Dials. He explicitly commands Lorraine to forget he ever mentioned the name.
He's terrified for her.
He confesses that when he first stumbled upon them, he thought it was some kind of elaborate joke, a bit of fun. But he has realized, too late, that it is actually highly dangerous.
And then the handwriting changes.
Yes. The letter provides its own terrifying physical evidence. The handwriting suddenly becomes erratic, trailing off mid-sentence as Jerry complains that he is inexplicably, overwhelmingly sleepy and can no longer keep his eyes open.
That detail just gives me chills. He was falling unconscious while the ink was still wet.
So the timeline shifts.
Exactly. It means the chloral hadn't been sitting by his bed for him to take later. The lethal dose had been slipped into his drink downstairs in the drawing room, long before he even climbed the stairs.
Someone handed him a poisoned drink.
Armed with this terrifying letter and the weight of Ronnie's dying words, Bundle knows she can't go to the local constabulary. They think Jerry was an accident, and they have no context for Ronnie's murder.
They'd never believe her.
So she races her Hispano up to London to fulfill Ronnie's final request. Tell Jimmy Thesiger. Jimmy has a luxurious bachelor apartment in the city. When Bundle bursts in, expecting to find him alone, she discovers someone else is already sitting in his drawing room.
Rizit.
Lorraine Wade. Lorraine has come from the country because the grief and suspicion have eaten away at her. She, too, has realized her brother was murdered and has come to beg Jimmy for his help in tracking down the killers.
They're all converging.
Jimmy finally stumbles out of his bedroom. He's a late sleeper, just like Jerry was, and the three of them sit down to compare their horrifying notes. Bundle reveals the bloody reality of Ronnie's murder. Lorraine shares her absolute conviction about Jerry's death. Jimmy fills in the gaps, explaining how Ronnie suspected foul play, but kept quiet because he was bound by a secret promise.
The dynamic in this London apartment is fascinating because it establishes the archetypal amateur detective team, while simultaneously playing with the gender politics of the 1920s thriller.
It feels very classic.
You have three upper-class civilians deciding to take on a ruthless, invisible enemy. Jimmy Thesiger immediately, almost reflexively, adopts the persona of the protective, leading man action hero.
He takes charge.
He looks at Lorraine, who is portrayed as delicate, grieving, and fragile, and lays down the law. He points to Jerry's letter, emphasizing that Jerry specifically ordered Lorraine to stay away from the Seven Dials.
So he benches her.
He insists, with absolute paternalistic firmness, that Lorraine must be kept completely out of the investigation for her own safety. He tells her to go home, sit tight, and let the men handle the danger.
And she just accepts it.
Surprisingly, yes. Lorraine just folds her hands and meekly agrees to step back. Bundle, who wouldn't take orders from the king himself, finds Lorraine's extreme passivity a little odd, perhaps even a bit pathetic.
Bundle would never.
Never. But Jimmy is completely taken in by it. It feeds his hero complex perfectly.
With Lorraine sidelined, Jimmy and Bundle start brainstorming, treating the clues like a crossword puzzle. Jimmy suddenly sits up, straight as a connection hits him. The clocks.
The light bulb goes on.
He reminds Bundle of the prank. They bought 8 clocks, but the killer who snuck into the room took the time to meticulously line up exactly 7 clocks on the mantelpiece, throwing the 8th one out the window into the darkness.
7 clocks.
7 dials. 7 dials. It wasn't just a bizarre aesthetic choice, it was a calling card. It was a sinister, arrogant message left by the killer right at the scene of the crime.
Leaving their signature.
Bundle decides immediately that they need to stop theorizing and start taking action. She needs to find out where this 7 Dials place actually is, and she knows exactly who holds that information. Their mutual friend, the big, clumsy, lovable, chronically blushing Bill Eversley.
Ooh, Bill. Bill Eversley is a wonderful character study in the jovial, slightly thick-headed British aristocrat.
He's such a golden retriever.
He is the kind of man who is terrified of emotional confrontation, but would happily walk into machine gun fire if asked politely.
Right.
Bundle uses her overpowering personality to essentially ambush him. She invites him out to a fancy dinner, feeds him, and then suddenly interrogates him about the 7 Dials.
Cornered.
Bill's reaction is immediate panic. He turns beetroot red, stammers, knocks over a glass, and gets incredibly flustered. He tries to construct a terrible, transparent lie, claiming it's just a defunct, slummy, disreputable nightclub in the Soho district where he once accidentally got into a fist fight over a bad lobster.
A fist fight over a bad lobster, that's his cover story.
It's so weak. And Bundle has known Bill for years. She sees right through his panicked evasion. Instead of letting him off the hook, she tightens the line. She demands that he take her to this so-called nightclub that very evening.
And Bill, completely unable to say no to Bundle, caves. He takes her deep into the winding, foggy streets of London's East End.
Soho in the 20s.
Yeah, and the Seven Dials Club is not a glamorous speakeasy. It's hidden behind a greasy fried fish shop down a dark alley. Inside, the air is thick with blue cigar smoke, the lighting is dim, and the clientele is a mix of sketchy bohemian artists, rough-looking characters, and people trying to hide their faces.
Very atmospheric.
Bundle is scanning the room, her adrenaline pumping, and then her sharp eyes lock onto a crucial detail. Standing by a heavy oak door that leads to an upstairs gambling room is a bouncer. But Bundle recognizes him instantly.
Who is it?
It's Alfred. He used to be a footman at Chimneys, and crucially, he abruptly left his employment right around the time Jerry Wade was killed.
Too much of a coincidence.
Bundle knows in her bones this is not a coincidence. The club is the nexus. The next day, she makes a decision that borders on the suicidal. She returns to the Seven Dials Club in the late afternoon, completely alone.
Alone.
She has ditched her aristocratic clothes and is wearing the drab, simple dress of a parlor maid as a disguise. She uses her knowledge of Alfred's past to bluff her way past him, pretending she's there for a secret rendezvous.
Very bold.
She explores the empty, echoing upstairs rooms. She finds a heavy wooden cupboard built into the wall. But when she investigates, she realizes the back of the cupboard is actually a secret door leading to a hidden, windowless room.
A hidden room behind a cupboard.
Yes. But hearing footsteps approaching, she panics. She climbs into a cramped, glass-fronted display cabinet in the corner of this hidden room, pulling the door shut behind her. And there she stays. For 4 agonizing, terrifying hours.
I want to spend a moment on the physical reality of what Bundle endures in that cabinet. This isn't a quick game of hide-and-seek.
No, it's brutal.
Agatha Christie writes this scene with a visceral focus on sensory deprivation and physical pain. Bundle is folded up in a tiny, dusty wooden box. Her muscles begin to cramp viciously.
You'd want to scream.
The air grows stale and hot. She can hear the blood roaring in her own ears, terrified that every creak of the floorboards is a killer coming to find her. The sheer endurance required to remain perfectly silent while your limbs go numb speaks volumes about her courage.
It's so tense.
But it also elevates the genre. We are no longer in a polite puzzle mystery. We are in the gritty, claustrophobic territory of an espionage thriller. Her immense patience is finally rewarded when the dead of night arrives and the hidden room comes alive.
Exactly. The silence is finally broken. Bundle, peering through a tiny crack in the glass, hears a sequence of 7 muffled knocks.
The secret knock.
The secret door swings open. The lighting in the room is intentionally kept dim. Figures begin to file into the room, taking seats around a large, polished wooden table. But it's what they're wearing that makes Bundle's breath catch in her throat.
Masks.
They are masked. But these aren't simple domino masks. They wear full, dark hoods that drape over their shoulders, completely obscuring the shape of their heads.
Like executioners.
And the face of every hood is painted as a stark white clock dial, with the hands painted pointing to a different hour. Number 2, number 3, and so on. The theatricality of it is chilling.
Very creepy.
She listens to their voices, trying to identify them. There is a large, heavily bearded man who speaks with a thick Russian accent, addressed as Moskarovsky. There's a man with a sharp, twanging American accent who sounds like a journalist.
A diverse group.
And there is a woman, even hidden beneath a shapeless hood. Her body language is elegant. When she speaks, her voice is deep, foreign, and incredibly seductive. The others address her with deep respect as Anna, or number 1.
Number 1.
But as Bundle studies the room, her eyes are drawn to the head of the table. There is a large, ornate chair there, and it is completely empty.
The empty chair of number 7 is the psychological anchor of this entire scene.
Why is that?
As the meeting progresses, the listener, along with Bundle, realizes the bizarre power dynamic at play. The members of this criminal syndicate are dangerous international operators. Yet they speak of number 7 with a mixture of profound reverence and absolute terror.
They're scared of their own boss.
They openly admit to one another that none of them have ever actually seen his face or heard his true voice. He communicates through hidden messages, he directs their operations with flawless precision, but he remains entirely in the shadows.
It can be anyone.
He is the ultimate omniscient puppet master. By keeping the main villain off stage, Christie amplifies the threat. The villain could be anyone in the outside world.
And this puppet master has convened the meeting to finalize a massive operation. Bundle, shivering in her dusty cupboard, strains to hear every word.
What are they planning?
The conversation turns to a man named Herr Eberhard, a German inventor who has developed a revolutionary, priceless secret formula. The Seven Dial Society has been tracking him, and they know exactly where he is going to be.
The target.
Next week, the formula will be brought to Wyvern Abbey. Wyvern Abbey is the sprawling country estate of a highly influential, incredibly pompous British politician named George Lomax.
Cotters.
Right. The younger generation mockingly calls him Cotters behind his back. The syndicate meticulously outlines their plan to infiltrate the political house party and steal the formula from under the noses of the British government.
Now, let's pause and analyze the target of this heist. The international secret formula is one of the most well-worn tropes in early 20th century thriller fiction.
Very James Bond.
In the 1920s, against the backdrop of a fragile post-war Europe, anxieties about rearmament, Bolshevist spies, and stolen technology were incredibly high. Christie is using this trope deliberately. It screams espionage and grand political stakes.
But you're about to warn us.
I must issue a warning to you, the listener. Christie is a grandmaster of misdirection. While she waves this glittering, high-stakes political MacGuffin in our faces, trying to draw our attention to foreign spies and state secrets, you must not lose sight of the physical reality of the story.
Don't look at the shiny object.
Exactly. Do not get distracted by the formula. Pay incredibly close attention to the mechanics of the upcoming heist. Ask yourself, how exactly is the physical theft going to be executed? And more importantly, who is going to be physically present in the room when it happens?
That is the crucial question. Bundle manages to survive the meeting. When the syndicate finally disperses into the dawn, she creeps out of the club, her body aching, exhausted, but armed with explosive intelligence.
She goes right to Jimmy.
She immediately tracks down Jimmy Thesiger. Jimmy is absolutely ecstatic. He sees this as their chance to strike back. And luckily, they have an easy way into the target location.
Bill Eversley.
Right. Bill Eversley, the blushing aristocrat, actually works as a secretary for George Lomax. He can easily pull strings to get Jimmy invited to the Wyvern Abbey house party.
Convenient.
Bundle, using her title and a politically connected aunt, manages to wangle an invitation for herself. And once again, Jimmy takes Lorraine Wade by the shoulders, looks deeply into her eyes, and firmly tells her that she must stay home in the country.
Benched again.
He insists that walking into a house targeted by assassins is too dangerous for a grieving sister. And once again, Lorraine meekly bows her head and agrees to wait patiently for news.
So the stage is set at Wyvern Abbey. The guest list is a perfect, pressurized, locked room scenario filled with suspects, targets, and amateur sleuths.
Who's all there?
You have the host, George Lomax, blustering and self-important. You have the target, the German inventor, Herr Eberhard, who is described as a trembling, nervous wreck, constantly gnawing his fingernails in terror.
Very stressed out.
Very. You have the British Air Minister, Sir Stanley Digby, representing the government's interest. Interestingly, Sir Oswald and Lady Coote are also present, having moved in the same wealthy circles, bringing the humorless secretary Pongo Bateman with them.
It's a full house.
And finally, adding a massive dose of glamour and suspicion, there is a stunningly beautiful young Hungarian aristocrat named Countess Radsky.
The moment Bundle lays eyes on Countess Radsky, alarm bells ring. The Countess has dark, dramatic hair, pale matte skin, and when she speaks, her voice is a deep, seductive, foreign purr.
Sounds familiar.
Bundle immediately pegs her as Anna, #1 from the hooded meeting at the Seven Dials Club. Bill Eversley, however, is completely blinded by her beauty. Of course he is. He's infatuated and utterly refuses to believe that this gorgeous woman could be an international thief. But Jimmy and Bill know they have a job to do regardless of the Countess. They decide to set a trap.
To catch the thieves red-handed.
The secret formula is going to be locked in a safe in the Abbey's massive ground floor library. Jimmy and Bill agree to keep a silent, armed stakeout in the library overnight to intercept the thieves.
Taking shifts.
They flip a coin to decide who takes the first shift. Jimmy wins the toss. He takes up his position in the dark library, armed with his heavy, blue-nosed automatic pistol, a gun he affectionately refers to as Leopold.
The atmosphere in Wyvern Abbey that night is wound as tight as a watch spring. It is a grand, silent house where no one is truly sleeping.
Everyone is on edge.
Every character is locked in their respective rooms, but the air is thick with anticipation. The narrative tension is practically vibrating.
Let's walk through the exact sequence of events second by second, because the timing and the physics of this scene are everything.
Absolutely crucial.
The grandfather clock in the hall chimes 2:00 a.m. Bundle is tossing and turning in her bedroom on the upper floor. She is too anxious to sleep. She decides she needs to creep out and check on Jimmy's stakeout.
She can't just stay put.
She quietly opens her door and slips down the corridor to the gallery overlooking the main staircase and the library door. But when she peers over the banister, her blood runs cold. Jimmy's post is empty. The chair is vacant.
He's gone.
Confused and suddenly very alarmed, she hurries down the hall to wake up Bill Eversley for backup. But in the pitch dark, she miscounts the doors. She accidentally opens the wrong door and steps inside. She realizes instantly she is in Countess Radsky's room, and the bed is perfectly made and completely empty.
The prime suspect is missing.
The prime suspect is missing.
The suspense is peaking. Bundle is standing in the dark, empty bedroom of a suspected spy. The silence of the massive house is absolute. And then, that silence is shattered with terrifying violence.
A tremendous, chaotic struggle breaks out downstairs in the library. Bundle sprints out of the bedroom and runs toward the noise. She reaches the heavy oak doors of the library and grabs the handles, but they are locked solid from the inside.
She can't get in.
She presses her ear to the wood. She can hear everything happening in the pitch blackness of the room. She hears the violent crashing of heavy wooden furniture being overturned.
A huge fight.
She hears the ragged, panting breath of men fighting for their lives. She hears a hoarse, panicked voice yell out, "Let me go!" And she hears a cultured, definitively English voice, Jimmy's voice, reply through gritted teeth, "Not if I know it."
So Jimmy's fighting the intruder.
And then the struggle reaches its climax. Two deafening revolver shots ring out in rapid succession, echoing through the halls like cannon fire.
The gunshots act as an alarm bell for the entire estate. Doors fly open. George Lomax in his silk pajamas, Sir Stanley Digby, servants. Everyone rushes down the grand staircase and converges on the library door.
Pounding on the wood.
Pounding on the wood, shouting to be let in. The tension is unbearable, and then there's the sharp click of the lock turning from the inside. The heavy doors swing open.
And who is it?
But it's not Jimmy who opens them. It is Superintendent Battle of Scotland Yard.
Yes, Superintendent Battle. This massive, incredibly stolid, wooden-faced detective just materializes out of the shadows.
What's he doing there?
It turns out George Lomax had received a vague, threatening letter and had secretly requested police presence. Battle reaches out and switches on the bright overhead chandeliers, illuminating a scene of utter devastation.
The aftermath.
The library looks like a war zone. Chairs are smashed, books are scattered, and lying in the center of the room, groaning in pain, is Jimmy Thesiger.
He's hurt.
His sleeve is soaked in blood from a gunshot wound clean through the fleshy part of his right arm. But before anyone can even rush to his aid, another impossible figure appears at the shattered glass of the French windows leading out to the terrace.
Lorraine Wade.
It's Lorraine Wade.
Let's remember the parameters Jimmy explicitly established. Lorraine was supposed to be miles away, safe in her country cottage, completely ignorant of the danger.
But she's right there.
But here she is, stepping out of the night, bathed in the light of the library. And the story she tells the astounded crowd is nothing short of miraculous.
Lorraine, breathless and wide-eyed, explains that her anxiety simply wouldn't let her stay home. She was terrified for Jimmy. She drove her car through the night, hid it in the lane, snuck onto the sprawling grounds of the Abbey, and was standing nervously on the terrace right outside the library windows at exactly 2:00 a.m.
Perfect timing.
Suddenly, she heard the fight break out inside. She looked up and saw a massive, heavy-set man climbing rapidly down the thick, ancient ivy from the floor above.
The thief escaping.
As the man reached the ground and sprinted away into the darkness, he dropped a brown paper parcel right at her feet. She scooped it up and ran toward the broken windows.
The parcel is.
She steps into the room and hands the parcel to a trembling Herr Eberhard. He rips it open. The secret formula is inside, perfectly intact. Lorraine, the meek country girl, has caught the thief's prize and saved the day.
On the surface, it is a scene of triumphant victory. Jimmy bravely fought off a ruthless intruder in the pitch dark, taking a bullet for his country. And the devoted Lorraine heroically recovered the stolen goods.
The good guys win.
The young amateurs have defeated the master criminals. But I want to pause the narrative right here. I want you, the listener, to stop cheering for the heroes and start looking at the crime scene with the cold, analytical eyes of Superintendent Battle.
Time to examine the clues.
Let's examine the physical evidence left behind in the wreckage of the library.
Battle is methodically pacing the room, his face giving absolutely nothing away. Jimmy, wincing as his arm is bandaged, gives his statement. He says he heard a noise upstairs, so he locked the library doors, turned out the lights, and waited in ambush.
A sensible plan.
A heavy-set man came down the ivy, slipped through the French windows, and a brutal fistfight ensued in the absolute dark. Jimmy managed to draw his large automatic, Leopold, and fired a shot, but missed in the confusion.
And the return fire.
The intruder then drew a much smaller weapon, fired back, hit Jimmy in the right arm, broke away, and scrambled back out the window. Battle investigates and indeed finds the heavy-caliber bullet from Jimmy's gun deeply embedded in the wooden frame of the window.
So that matches up.
But then, two other very strange items are introduced into evidence. First, Sir Oswald Coote, who had been out taking a late-night stroll for his digestion, walks in from the garden.
Out for a stroll at 2 a.m.
He is gingerly holding a small .25 caliber Mauser pistol by the butt. He tells Battle he found it lying on the dewy grass, dropped by the fleeing thief.
A dropped weapon is a classic clue. But the second item Battle discovers is entirely bizarre and deeply specific.
What is it?
Battle walks over to the grand fireplace. Lying in the cold ashes is a single, heavily charred leather glove. It has been thrown into the fire in an attempt to destroy it, but it didn't fully burn.
A burnt glove.
Battle pulls it out and examines it closely. What makes this glove remarkable is not the burn marks. It is the fact that the fingers and the cuff of the glove are covered in clear, deep teeth marks.
Teeth marks.
Someone had violently, desperately bitten down on the leather to tear it off their own hand.
Meanwhile, the rest of the house is searched. The Countess Ratsky, the prime suspect for number 1, is discovered trembling and hiding behind a massive Spanish leather screen in the corner of the library.
So she was there the whole time.
Her story is that she couldn't sleep, came down to find a book, heard the terrifying fight break out, and hid in absolute terror. And to top it all off, the butler reports that one of the footmen, a very large, heavy-set man named Bauer, who used to work at Chimneys, is entirely missing from his quarters.
It all lines up too perfectly.
To the politicians and the guests, the conclusion is incredibly obvious. It's a closed case. Bauer is the heavy-set thief who climbed the ivy. The Countess is his accomplice who let him in. And Jimmy is a national hero.
This is the moment I want to issue a challenge. The narrative has handed us a perfectly packaged solution, tied with a neat little bow. But look closely at Superintendent Battle.
He's not buying it.
He is entirely unfazed by the missing footman, or the cowering countess. He is looking at the geometry of the lawn and the physics of the human body. He calmly remarks to Jimmy that the small Mauser pistol was found lying on the grass at a distance far greater than a right-handed man could possibly have thrown it while fleeing in that direction.
It was thrown too far.
And more importantly, let's look at that charred glove. Why would a criminal fleeing a crime scene take the time to burn a glove? And if they were in a desperate hurry, why would they use their teeth to pull it off?
Because their other hand was full.
You only use your teeth to remove a glove if your other hand is completely incapacitated.
Those bizarre, conflicting details hover in the air as the dust finally settles at Wyvern Abbey. The guests are too relieved to care about the physics of a thrown gun. Jimmy is hailed as a conquering hero, Lorraine is praised for her bravery, and the government formula is locked away safely.
But the story's not over.
But Jimmy, surprisingly, isn't satisfied. He gathers Bundle and Lorraine and tells them the mission isn't over. They thwarted a robbery, but they won't be truly safe until they capture the head of the snake, the mysterious number 7.
They need to finish it.
Jimmy heads back to his apartment in London to plot his next move. A day later, Bill Eversley pays Jimmy a frantic, unexpected visit. Bill is terrified.
What's wrong with Bill?
He claims he has just received a posthumous letter written by Ronnie Devereaux before his murder. And according to Bill, this letter points the finger of suspicion directly, unambiguously, at Jimmy himself.
Pointing at Jimmy.
Jimmy laughs it off, manages to calm Bill down with a stiff drink. But shortly after Bill leaves, Jimmy calls Bundle on the telephone in a state of high-pitched excitement.
He's making a move.
He tells her she needs to grab Lorraine and rush to the Seven Dials Club immediately. He hints that he and Bill are going to use Ronnie's letter to spring a massive final trap on number 7 tonight.
Bundle, ever the adrenaline junkie, doesn't hesitate. She grabs Lorraine, they race through the London fog to the club, bluff their way past the footman, and lock themselves in the secret hidden room to wait for Jimmy's trap to spring.
They're waiting in the dark again.
But the wait turns into a nightmare. Lorraine sneaks upstairs to check the street, and she comes running back down in absolute panic. She tells Bundle that she looked out the window and saw Bill Eversley sitting in the driver's seat of his car parked in the alley.
Is he okay?
And he's completely unresponsive. He appears to be dead, slumped over the wheel.
Oh my God.
Bundle is horrified. She's dragged her friend into this, and now he might be dead. She scrambles up the stairs to the main room of the club to grab smelling salts from Lorraine's handbag.
She needs to wake him up.
She rushes into the dim room, spots the bag on a table, and reaches for it. But as her fingers touch the leather, a shadow detaches itself from the wall behind the door. A man steps out, raises a heavy canvas sandbag, and brings it crashing down on the back of Bundle's skull.
An ambush.
The world explodes into blackness and Bundle collapses to the floor, unconscious.
When Bundle finally regains consciousness, her reality is entirely disorienting. Her head is throbbing with a sickening, violent pain. She is lying on the floor. But she isn't in the main room anymore.
Where is she?
She has been dragged back down into the secret, hidden meeting room. As her vision clears, she hears a voice close to her ear murmuring, "Darling Bundle, oh my darling, I love you so. Please wake up."
Who's saying that?
She blinks, and it's Bill. He's alive. He's kneeling over her, holding her tight. He wasn't dead in the car. He had been knocked out and dragged inside, too.
Oh, thank goodness.
But their deeply romantic, desperate reunion is violently cut short. The heavy wooden door unlocks and swings open. Muskarovsky, the massive, bearded Russian, fills the doorway.
The 7 dials are here.
He doesn't attack them. Instead, he speaks with formal, chilling politeness. He summons Bundle to step into the adjoining room for a full emergency meeting of the 7 Dials Society.
This is the narrative climax we've been building toward for hundreds of pages. The amateur sleuth is finally brought face to face with the shadowy cabal.
The moment of truth.
Bundle, leaning on Bill for support, is led into the main meeting room. The dim, dramatic lighting is exactly as she remembers it. The hooded, masked figures are all sitting silently at the polished table.
With the clock masks.
The clock faces, number 2, number 3, number 1, are all turned toward her. But the air is sucked out of the room by a single terrifying detail. This time, the ornate chair at the head of the table is not empty. Number 7 is present.
Bundle stares at the masked leader, her heart pounding against her ribs. She prepares herself to face a criminal mastermind, an international assassin.
The puppet master.
The figure in the chair leans forward and the voice of number 7 speaks. But the voice doesn't sound evil or foreign or sinister. It sounds incredibly, bizarrely familiar to her. It is a calm, slow, deeply English voice. Very slowly, the man raises a large hand, grasps the fabric of the hood, and pulls the clock mask off his head. And Bundle finds herself looking directly into the expressionless, incredibly stolid, wooden face of Superintendent Battle of Scotland Yard.
It is a phenomenal rug-pulling twist. Agatha Christie takes the entire premise of the book, everything she has taught the reader to fear, and turns it completely inside out.
It's Battle.
The 7 Dials is not a criminal syndicate. It never was. It is a highly classified ring of amateur undercover Secret Service agents.
I remember reading this and having to reread the page 3 times. Superintendent Battle invites a completely dumbfounded Bundle to sit down, and he explains everything.
The whole truth comes out.
He tells her that Jerry Wade wasn't investigating the 7 Dials when he died. Jerry helped found it. Ronnie Devereaux was a crucial member. Bill Eversley, bumbling, blushing Bill, is a member.
Bill was in on it.
Muskarovsky is actually a vital anti-Bolshevist agent working for the British government. Count Andras, the American journalist, even the seductive Countess Ratsky, they are all loyal agents working together.
All playing a part.
Their mission was to catch a ruthless, slippery international thief who had been stealing state secrets and peddling them to foreign powers.
And here's where Christie executes the most brilliant subversion of the narrative. By revealing that the scary, masked society are actually the good guys, it leaves a massive vacuum.
If they didn't do it.
If the 7 Dials didn't kill Jerry and Ronnie, who did? Battle delivers the crushing truth. The master criminal they have been desperately hunting, the man who cold-bloodedly poisoned Jerry Wade and shot Ronnie Devereaux, is none other than our supposed hero.
Jimmy.
The cheerful, cherubic, endlessly amiable Jimmy Thesiger.
It is absolutely mind-blowing. Jimmy is the killer. He is the mastermind. And the twists don't stop there. Battle reveals that Jimmy wasn't working alone.
He needed help.
A man can't be in two places at once. Jimmy needed an accomplice, someone who could feed him information, act as a lookout, and play the role of innocent bystander. His partner in crime is the sweet, grieving, seemingly meek country girl, Lorraine Wade.
This is where we see the absolute clockwork genius of Christie's plot mechanics. Let's break down exactly how Jimmy and Lorraine pulled off the Wyvern Abbey fakeout. Superintendent Battle, using the clues we debated earlier, explains it perfectly.
Let's hear it.
Remember the locked room, the dark library, the sounds of the desperate struggle?
Right. Let's unpack this. Jimmy and Lorraine had the entire night meticulously choreographed. Lorraine didn't just happen to be standing on the terrace at 2 a.m. because she was worried.
No, she was placed there.
She was there precisely on time to act as the catcher. Jimmy, during his solo watch, locked the heavy library doors from the inside and turned out the lights. But he didn't stay in the room to ambush a thief.
What did he do?
He opened the French windows, climbed out, and shinnied up the thick ivy to the floor above, specifically to the room of the Air Minister's secretary, Terence O'Rourke.
So he was the climber.
He stole the secret formula from O'Rourke's dispatch box, climbed back down the ivy, threw the brown paper parcel down to his accomplice Lorraine waiting on the grass, and then scrambled back into the library.
And the epic fight. The cursing, the crashing furniture. There was no intruder. It was entirely a one-man show.
He faked the whole thing.
Jimmy staged the entire violent struggle by himself in the pitch-black room. He grabbed heavy chairs and smashed them into tables. He threw books. He cursed in a hoarse voice and answered himself in his own cultured voice. He drew his large automatic pistol and fired a shot directly into the wooden window frame to simulate an attacker returning fire.
And then comes the most ruthless, psychopathic part of the plan. To make himself look like an undisputed, heroic victim, Jimmy took out a second weapon, the small .25 Mauser pistol he had brought with him.
The one on the lawn.
He held it to his own body, gritted his teeth, and deliberately shot himself clean through the fleshy part of his own right arm.
That is dedication to a lie.
But this act of self-mutilation created a massive physical problem for him, which created the clues Battle found. Because his right arm was now bleeding profusely and the muscle was useless, he had to use his non-dominant left hand to throw the Mauser pistol out the window onto the lawn.
That explains the distance.
That is exactly why Battle knew the gun wasn't thrown by a right-handed thief running away. The trajectory was wrong. It didn't go far enough.
Furthermore, Jimmy had worn a leather glove to avoid leaving fingerprints while breaking into O'Rourke's room and handling the stolen papers. He needed to destroy that evidence.
The burnt glove.
But with a bullet hole in his right arm, he couldn't use his hands to pull the tight leather glove off his left hand. So in a moment of desperate, agonizing, improvised mechanics, he had to bring his left hand to his mouth, bite down hard on the leather with his teeth, and violently tear the glove off, tossing it into the fireplace just seconds before Battle unlocked the door.
That is insane.
Those teeth marks were the definitive signature of a man who had intentionally incapacitated his own hand.
The audacity of it is staggering. And once you understand Jimmy's utter ruthlessness at Wyvern Abbey, the murders of his friends make horrifying sense.
It recontextualizes everything.
Jerry Wade was killed because his involvement with the Seven Dials meant he was getting too close to uncovering Jimmy's smuggling ring. Jimmy was the one who slipped the lethal dose of chloral into Jerry's drink downstairs before bed.
And the clocks.
Then, later that night in the dark, Jimmy snuck into Jerry's room. He placed the empty bottle of chloral by the bed to make it look like an accidental overdose or suicide. But Jimmy couldn't resist a sick, twisted joke. He gathered 7 of the alarm clocks and lined them up on the mantelpiece, throwing the 8th out the window.
Why do that?
He did this specifically as a psychological test. He wanted to see if anyone in the house party would react to the symbol of the 7 dials, which would betray their membership in the secret society he was trying to hunt down.
And the tragedy is, his sick joke worked. Ronnie Devereaux figured it out. Ronnie looked at those 7 clocks, looked at his best friend Jimmy, and realized the horrifying truth.
He knew.
Ronnie knew Jimmy was the killer. But because Lorraine, the grieving sister, was secretly feeding Jimmy every move the investigators made, Jimmy knew Ronnie was on to him. Jimmy managed to ambush Ronnie on the quiet country road and shoot him through the chest with a rifle.
And the dying words.
Ronnie's dying words to bundle 7 dials. Tell. Jimmy Thesiger warned a request to ask Jimmy for help. They were a desperate, failed attempt to warn the 7 dials that Jimmy Thesiger was the murderer.
The betrayal is just so deep. The trap that finally caught Jimmy was orchestrated by none other than our bumbling friend, Bill Eversley.
Good old Bill.
Bill, working with Battle, went to Jimmy's apartment with a completely fabricated story about a posthumous letter from Ronnie. The goal was to panic Jimmy into making a mistake. And Jimmy fell for it. Panicking, Jimmy poured a powerful drug into Bill's drink. Bill, playing his part perfectly, pretended to pass out in his chair. Believing he was safe, Jimmy began to openly boast about his brilliant crimes to Lorraine over the telephone,
While the police listened.
while a squad of Scotland Yard detectives listened intently from the hallway outside. The entire chaotic sequence at the Seven Dials Club, with Bundle being hit with a sandbag, was just Jimmy and Lorraine making a desperate final attempt to eliminate the remaining threats before the police could close the net.
But the net does close. Jimmy and Lorraine are arrested, their entire charming facade stripped away to reveal cold, calculating greed.
In the aftermath.
The deep dive comes to a close with a highly satisfying, if slightly bittersweet, resolution. Bundle, having survived the ordeal, realizes she has absolutely no interest in returning to the quiet, boring life of a country aristocrat.
Of course not. She needs action.
She thrives on the thrill of the chase, the danger, and she recognizes the dependable, steadfast bravery hidden beneath Bill Eversley's blushing exterior. She decides she is going to marry him, much to the deep, amusing dismay of her father, Lord Caterham, who realizes his quiet life is over forever.
It's a fantastic ending to a truly wild ride. We've gone from a childish prank with alarm clocks to a high-stakes shootout with international smugglers.
And as we wrap up this incredibly complex story, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
What's that?
Agatha Christie uses this novel to hold a mirror up to our own psychological blind spots. We are conditioned by society and literature to naturally, almost instinctively, trust certain archetypes.
Like the hero.
Exactly. We trust the cheerful, brave young man who steps up and volunteers to take the dangerous night watch. We immediately protect and coddle the sweet, grieving sister who lowers her eyes and claims she just wants to help.
But they were the villains.
But this story challenges you to look closer and question those assumptions. In real life, and in the media you consume every day, consider this. The people who most loudly and publicly play the role of the righteous hero, or the people who lean hardest into the performance of the helpless victim, might just be the very architects of the chaos you are watching unfold.
What a profound and unsettling thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us for this extensive deep dive into the source material of the Seven Dials mystery. We hope you enjoyed exploring the twists, the turns, the historical context, and the brilliant mechanical clockwork of this plot as much as we did.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep questioning what you read, keep looking for the missing pieces, and keep diving deep.